Commander Sarah Chen walked across the bridge of her ship. The ship was called the Terran Dominance. It was one of the newest and biggest warships that humans had ever built. She was doing her normal patrol job near the edge of human space when something unexpected happened. Red lights started flashing everywhere. Loud alarms began ringing through the whole ship. Her crew members ran to their stations and started checking their computers and screens. Something big was coming toward them. "Commander," called out Lieutenant Rodriguez from his station. "We have contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Lots of them." Sarah looked at the main screen. What she saw made her eyes go wide. 67 alien ships had just appeared in front of them. The ships looked nothing like human ships. They were smooth and curved, almost like they were alive. They glowed with strange lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. The alien ships moved into a perfect battle formation. They spread out in a pattern that showed they knew how to fight. Sarah had studied alien ship designs before, but she had never seen anything like these ships. They were bigger than most human ships, and there were so many of them. "Sir," said the communications officer, "we're getting a message from the alien fleet. The computer is translating it now." Sarah nodded. "Put it on the main speakers." A strange voice filled the bridge. The words were translated by the ship's computer, but the tone was clear. The alien sounded angry and proud. "Primitive species," the voice said. "You have entered Zephyrian territory without permission. You will surrender your ship to us right now. We will inspect your vessel and decide what to do with you. You have one of your time units to comply. If you refuse, we will destroy you." Sarah looked around her bridge. Her crew was looking at her, waiting for orders. She noticed something interesting. None of them looked scared. Lieutenant Rodriguez was actually trying not to smile. Chief Engineer Santos was shaking her head like she had heard a funny joke. Sarah pressed the button to send a message back to the aliens. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Navy ship Terran Dominance," she said in a calm voice. "You are in violation of the Sol Accords. These are international space laws. You need to leave this area immediately or face the consequences." There was a pause. Then the alien voice came back. This time it sounded even more angry. "Your single vessel against our Grand Armada? 67 ships against one? Your species shows illogical confidence. This confidence will lead to your extinction. Prepare to be destroyed." Sarah turned to her tactical officer. "Rodriguez, what do our sensors tell us about their ships?" Rodriguez looked at his screen and typed some commands. "They appear to be biomechanical, Commander. Part machine, part living organism. Their weapons look like some kind of plasma system. Energy shields are active on all vessels. They're definitely advanced technology." "Any assessment of their threat level?" Sarah asked. Rodriguez paused for a moment. Then he said something that would have surprised anyone who didn't know about. "Human military technology. Minimal threat, Commander. Their weapons appear to be standard plasma-based systems. Nothing our defensive systems can't handle." Sarah nodded. She had expected this answer, but she wanted to be sure. The Terran Dominance was not just any ship. It was the result of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to over-engineer everything. Humans had a saying, "If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing." This philosophy had led them to build ships that were far more powerful than they appeared to be. "Santos," Sarah called to her chief engineer. "What's our status?" Chief Engineer Maria Santos looked up from her station. "All systems running at minimal power, Commander. We're operating at about 5% capacity to avoid detection of our true capabilities. All defensive and offensive systems are ready and waiting for your command." Sarah smiled. This was exactly what she had hoped to hear. The aliens thought they were facing a single, weak human ship. They had no idea what they were really up against. "Communications," Sarah said. "Open a channel. To Earth Command. Send them our situation report." "Channel open, Commander." "Earth Command, this is the Terran Dominance. We have made first contact with an alien species calling themselves Zephyrians. They have 67 ships and are demanding our surrender. We are prepared to respond according to Protocol 7 if necessary." The response from Earth came quickly. "Terran Dominance, you are authorized to use any necessary force to defend yourself and human territory. Show them what humanity is capable of." Sarah closed the channel and looked at her crew. Every person on the bridge was ready. They had trained for this moment for years. First contact with an alien species had always been expected, but they had hoped it would be peaceful. "Commander," Rodriguez said, "the alien ships are moving into attack position. It looks like they're preparing to launch fighter craft." Sarah watched the main screen as small ships began leaving the larger alien vessels. The fighters were moving toward the Terran dominance in attack formation. "How many fighters?" Sarah asked. "Approximately 200 small craft, Commander. They're armed with the same plasma weapons as the larger ships." Sarah made her decision. She would give the aliens one more chance to leave peacefully. "Open a pointer channel to the alien fleet," she ordered. "Channel open, Commander." "Zephyrian fleet, this is your final warning. Leave this system immediately. You are outgunned and outmatched. Do not make the mistake of testing human military capability." The response came back immediately. The alien voice was laughing. "Outgunned? Outmatched? You have one ship. We have 67. You humans must be insane to think you can challenge the might of the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered 17 star systems. Your single ship will be easy prey." Sarah sighed. She had tried to avoid what was about to happen. "Santos, bring all systems online," she ordered. "Rodriguez, prepare all weapons systems, communications, record everything for the historical record." "All systems coming online, Commander," Santos reported. "Full power in 30 seconds." Sarah looked at the alien fleet on her screen. They had no idea what was about to happen to them. The Terran dominance was about to show them why humanity had become the dominant species on their home planet. "Rodriguez, what's the status of our defensive systems?" Sarah asked. "Adaptive armor plating is online. Energy shields are at full power. Point defense systems are ready. All systems are green, Commander." Sarah nodded. The aliens were about to learn a very important lesson about humans. When humans built something, they built it to last. And when they built weapons, they built them to win. The alien fighters were getting closer. Soon they would be in range to attack. Sarah was ready for them. "All stations, prepare for combat," she announced to her crew. "Let's show these aliens what human engineering can do." Fleet Admiral Zektar stood in the command center of his flagship, the Cosmic Supremacy. He was tall and thin, with 4 arms and pale blue skin that glowed slightly in the dark. His species, the Zephyrians, had been conquering other worlds for over 300 years. Zektar looked at the human ship on his main viewing screen. It was much smaller than his flagship. To him it looked primitive and weak. The humans had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel. How could they possibly challenge the mighty Zephyrian Empire? "Tactical Officer Vexrim," Zektar called, to one of his crew members. "What can you tell me about this human vessel?" Vexrim was hunched over his scanning equipment. His 6 eyes were focused on the data flowing across his screens. "Admiral, the human ship appears to be made of simple metal alloys. Their technology seems basic compared to ours. I detect minimal energy output from their ship. They appear to be running on low power." Zektar nodded with satisfaction. This was exactly what he had expected. The Zephyrians had studied 17 different alien species before conquering them. All of them had fallen easily to Zephyrian technology. "What about their weapons?" Zektar asked. "Difficult to determine, Admiral. Their weapon systems appear to be powered down. I can barely detect any active systems on their ship at all." This made Zektar smile. His sharp teeth gleamed in the light of the command center. The humans were clearly afraid. They had probably shut down their weapons to avoid appearing threatening. "Excellent," Zektar said. "Begin the standard conquest procedure. Launch the first wave of fighters. Target their engine systems only. I want their ship disabled, not destroyed. We need to study their technology." The Zephyrians had a very specific way of conquering new species. First, they would disable the enemy ships with minimal damage. Then they would board the ships and take prisoners. Finally, they would study the alien technology and add it to their own knowledge base. This system had worked perfectly for hundreds of years. The Zephyrians had become incredibly powerful by stealing technology from every species they conquered. "Fighter. Squadrons Alpha through Delta. Prepare for launch," Vexrim announced into his communication system. Zektar watched as his biofighters began leaving the carrier ships. These fighters were not built. They were grown. Each fighter was part machine and part living creature. The pilots were connected directly to their ships through biological interfaces. This gave Zephyrian pilots incredible control over their vessels. They could make their ships move and react as quickly as their own bodies. No other species had ever developed anything like this technology. 200 fighters launched, Admiral, Vexrim reported. They are moving into attack formation. Zektar studied the human ship again. It was still just sitting there in space. It was not moving to escape. It was not launching its own fighters. It was not even raising energy shields. Are the humans surrendering already? Asked Sub-Admiral Krelnox, Zektar's second-in-command. It appears so, Zektar replied. They must have realized how hopeless their situation is. One ship against our entire fleet. Even a primitive species should be able to understand simple mathematics. But something was bothering Zektar. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen a species give up so quickly. Even the weakest aliens usually tried to fight back or at least attempt to escape. Vexrim, are you certain about your sensor readings? Zektar asked. Yes, Admiral. The human ship is operating at minimal power. I can barely detect any active systems. Zektar frowned. This was strange. Why would a military vessel travel through space with most of its systems shut down? It did not make sense. Perhaps they are trying to appear harmless, suggested Krelnox. Some species use deception as a defense mechanism. Possible, Zektar agreed. But what could they be hiding? Their ship is clearly inferior to ours. The Zephyrian fighters were now halfway to the human ship. They were moving in perfect formation, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with energy. Each fighter was armed with plasma cannons that could melt through the strongest metals. Admiral, Vexrim said suddenly, I'm detecting a small energy increase from the human ship. Zektar looked at the tactical display. The human ship's energy output had increased slightly, but it was still far below what would be considered normal for a military vessel. Probably just their life support systems, Zektar said. Continue the attack. The Zephyrian fighters were now in weapons range. Their pilot commanders received the order to fire. Dozens of plasma bolts shot through space toward the human ship. Zektar expected to see the human vessel's hull begin to melt under the plasma fire. He expected to see their engines explode and their ship become helpless. What he saw instead made no sense at all. The plasma bolts hit the human ship directly. Zektar could see the impacts on his viewing screen. But nothing happened. The human ship absorbed the plasma fire like it was nothing more than gentle rain. What? Zektar shouted. Vexrim, explain this. Vexrim was frantically checking his instruments. His 6 eyes were moving rapidly as he tried to understand what he was seeing. Admiral, I don't understand. Our plasma weapons hit their ship directly. But there's no damage, no energy drain, no hull breach. It's like our weapons aren't affecting them at all. Zektar felt a cold fear beginning to grow in his stomach. In 300 years of conquest, Zephyrian plasma weapons had never failed to damage an enemy ship. Increase firepower, he ordered. All fighters, maximum plasma output. The fighters obeyed immediately. They increased their weapons to full power and fired again. More plasma bolts streaked toward the human ship. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. Again, the weapons hit the human ship directly. Again, nothing happened. Impossible, Zektar screamed. Our weapons can breach any known shielding technology. Admiral, Vexrim said in a shaking voice, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the human ship. Whatever they're powering up, it's unlike anything in our databases. Zektar stared at the human ship on his screen. For the first time in his long military career, he felt truly afraid. What kind of species could build technology that made Zephyrian weapons useless? Sir, his communications officer reported, the humans are sending us a message. Put it on the main speakers, Zektar ordered. A calm female voice filled the command center. The tone was not afraid or angry. It was simply matter-of-fact. To the Zephyrian fleet, you have 10 seconds to begin immediate withdrawal from this system. This is your only warning. Zektar's fear quickly turned to rage. How dare these primitive humans threaten the mighty Zephyrian Empire? "Open a channel," he commanded. "You dare threaten us? We shall crush your pathetic ship and add your technology to our own. Prepare to be conquered." The human response was immediate. The communication channel was cut off before Zektar could say anything else. Then something happened that would haunt Zektar for the rest of his very short life. The human ship suddenly blazed with light and energy. Systems that had been hidden or powered down suddenly came online. The energy readings that Vexrim was getting made no sense. No ship should be able to generate that much power. "Admiral," Vexrim whispered, "that's not a single ship. I don't know what that is." Chief Engineer Maria Santos was deep inside the Terran Dominance in the main engineering section. This part of the ship was huge, filled with machines and computers that most aliens would not understand. Santos was checking the ship's systems, with the calm attitude of someone who did this job every day. The Terran Dominance looked like a normal warship from the outside, but Santos knew the truth. This ship was actually something much more dangerous. It was the result of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to over-engineer everything until it was almost impossibly powerful. "Santos," came Commander Chen's voice over the communication system. "What's our status down there?" Santos looked at her control panels. Every system was running perfectly. "All defensive systems are online and ready, Commander. Should I bring the Hedgehog arrays to full power?" "Not yet," Chen replied. "Let's see what these aliens can do first. Sometimes it's educational to learn about new technologies." Santos smiled at this response. The commander was being polite, but Santos knew the truth. The alien weapons were not even close to being dangerous to the Terran Dominance. Santos had helped design this ship. She knew every system, every weapon, every piece of armor. The ship had been built using technology that was far beyond what most species could imagine. The first plasma bolts from the alien fighters hit the ship's hull. Santos watched the readings on her screens. The energy from the alien weapons spread across the ship's adaptive armor plating. The armor absorbed the energy and converted it to power for the ship's systems. "Commander," Santos said into her communicator, "their weapons are barely registering as background radiation. Should I inform them that they're essentially throwing rocks at a mountain?" "Negative," Chen replied. "Let them exhaust their first attack wave. I want them to feel confident when we respond." Santos understood the strategy. Humans had learned long ago that it was better to let enemies show all their capabilities before revealing their own strength. This way, the enemy could not adapt or prepare for what was coming. The alien fighters fired again, this time with more power. Santos watched as the energy readings increased slightly. The ship's armor absorbed this attack just as easily as the first one. Santos began thinking about how humans had developed their technology. Unlike many species, humans did not just build things to work. They built things to work perfectly, even under the worst possible conditions. Human military engineers had a saying: "If the enemy has one way to destroy it, we need 10 ways to protect it." This philosophy had led to ships like the Terran Dominance. The ship's armor was not just one type of protection. It was actually 7 different defensive systems working together. First was the adaptive armor plating, which could absorb and convert energy attacks. Second was the kinetic dispersal system, which spread physical impacts across the entire hull. Third was the regenerative layer, which could repair damage automatically. Fourth was the energy shield system, which could deflect attacks away from the ship. Fifth was the gravity manipulation field, which could bend space around the ship to make weapons miss. Sixth was the matter displacement system, which could actually move attacks to a different location. Seventh was the temporal distortion field, which could slow down incoming attacks to make them harmless. Most species were happy if their ships had 1 or 2 of these defensive systems. Humans had decided they needed all 7, just to be safe. "Santos," Chen's voice came again, "prepare all weapon systems. I think our guests are about to learn about human engineering." Santos began activating the ship's offensive systems. Like the defensive systems, the weapons were far more complex than they appeared to be. The main weapons were called Hedgehog arrays. These were not just simple missile launchers. Each Hedgehog array could launch 10,000 micro-missiles simultaneously. Each missile had its own guidance system, its own power source and its own artificial intelligence. The missiles could think for themselves. They could choose their own targets, coordinate with other missiles, and even make tactical decisions. They were like having 10,000 tiny pilots, all working together to destroy the enemy. But the hedgehog arrays were just the beginning. The ship also had railguns that could fire projectiles at a significant fraction of the speed of light. These projectiles carried so much kinetic energy that they could punch through a planet's crust. There were also plasma cannons, but these were not like the alien weapons. Human plasma cannons used fusion reactions to create temperatures hotter than the core of a star. They could melt through any known material in seconds. The ship had laser systems that could cut through space-time itself. It had gravity weapons that could create artificial black holes. It had temporal weapons that could age enemy ships into dust, and all of these weapons could fire at the same time. Santos finished bringing the weapons online. Every system was ready. The ship was now operating at full capacity, though the aliens probably could not detect this yet. "Commander," Santos reported, "all systems are online. We're ready to show them what human engineering can accomplish." Santos thought about how other species approach technology. Most aliens developed their technology slowly, over thousands of years. They improved things gradually, making small changes over long periods of time. Humans were different. When humans decided to build something, they threw everything they had at the problem. They used every bit of knowledge, every possible technology, every creative idea they could think of. The result was that human technology often seemed impossible to other species. How could one species develop such powerful systems so quickly? The answer was simple. Humans were very good at learning from their mistakes. Every time something went wrong, they figured out how to prevent it from happening again. Every time an enemy found a weakness, humans built 3 new defenses to cover that weakness. Over the centuries, this had led to ships like the Terran Dominance, ships that were so over-engineered that they could handle any threat imaginable. "Santos," Chen said, "I'm about to give these aliens one final warning. After that, we're going to demonstrate human military capability." Santos checked her systems one more time. Everything was perfect. The ship was ready to show the galaxy why humans had become the dominant species on their home planet. "Ready when you are, Commander," Santos replied. "Let's give them a demonstration they'll never forget." Santos knew that what was about to happen would change everything. This would be the first time aliens had seen full human military technology in action. After today, the galaxy would understand that humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were the species that did the conquering. Admiral Zektar watched his tactical displays with growing panic. His plasma weapons, the most powerful in the known galaxy, were having no effect on the human ship. The energy readings from his sensors made no sense. The human vessel was absorbing attacks that should have destroyed it completely. "Sir," his sensor operator Vexrim reported with a trembling voice, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout their ship. The power levels are increasing exponentially. Whatever they're powering up, it's unlike anything in our databases." Zektar stared at the numbers on his screen. The energy readings were impossible. No single ship could generate that much power. His scientists had calculated the maximum theoretical energy output for a vessel of that size. The human ship was already producing 10 times that amount, and the readings were still climbing. "This cannot be accurate," Zektar said. "Check your instruments. Recalibrate the sensors." "I've checked everything 3 times, Admiral," Vexrim replied. "The readings are correct. That ship is producing more energy than our entire fleet combined." On the bridge of the Terran Dominance, Commander Chen was finally ready to show the aliens what they were really facing. She had given them every opportunity to leave peacefully. Now they would learn why that had been their best option. "Chief Air." "Santos," Chen said calmly. "Bring all systems to full operational status. I want everything online." "Aye, Commander," Santos replied from engineering, bringing main reactor to 100%. All defensive systems at maximum power. All offensive systems armed and ready. Chen turned to her tactical officer. "Rodriguez, prepare the hedgehog array for full dispersal pattern." I want complete area saturation. Hedgehog array ready, Commander, Rodriguez reported. 10,000 micromissiles loaded and programmed. Targeting systems have locked onto all 67 enemy vessels. Chen looked at her communications officer. Open a channel to the alien fleet. I want to give them one final opportunity to save themselves. Channel open, Commander. Chen spoke with the calm authority that had made her one of humanity's most respected commanders. Her voice carried across space to the alien fleet. To the Zephyrian fleet, you have 10 seconds to begin immediate withdrawal from this system. This is your only warning. The response from Admiral Zektar came immediately. His voice was filled with rage and disbelief. You dare threaten us? We shall crush your pathetic ship and add your technology to our own. We have conquered 17 star systems. Your single vessel cannot stand against the might of the Zephyrian Empire. Chen cut the communication channel. She had tried to be reasonable. Now it was time to be practical. Rodriguez, she said, you are authorized to engage. Fire everything. What happened next would be recorded in the history books of every civilized species in the galaxy. The Terran dominance revealed its true nature as the most advanced warship ever built. The Hedgehog array activated first. 10,000 micro-missiles launched simultaneously from concealed ports all over the ship's hull. Each missile was no bigger than a human fist, but each one carried enough destructive power to level a city block. The missiles spread out through space like an angry swarm of metal insects. Their advanced guidance systems immediately identified targets and began calculating optimal attack vectors. They moved so fast that they appeared as streaks of light against the darkness of space. But the missiles were just the beginning. The ship's railgun batteries emerged from hidden compartments. These weapons were massive, each one the size of a building. They fired projectiles made of ultra-dense matter at velocities approaching the speed of light. The kinetic energy contained in each projectile was enormous. When these rounds hit something, they didn't just destroy it. They erased it from existence, converting matter directly into energy. The plasma cannons came online next. These weapons used controlled fusion reactions to create temperatures hotter than the core of a star. The plasma bolts they fired could melt through any known material in microseconds. But Chen wasn't finished. The Terran dominance had more weapon systems than most species had ever imagined possible. Gravity manipulation devices created artificial gravitational fields that could crush enemy ships like tin cans. Temporal distortion weapons aged parts of enemy vessels into dust. Matter disintegration beams simply deleted sections of enemy hulls from reality. Admiral Zektar watched in horror as his fleet began to disappear. The first wave of human missiles reached his ships and began exploding. Each explosion was like a miniature star going nova. His bioships, which could regenerate from almost any damage, simply stopped existing as the human weapons hit them. There was no time for regeneration when the ship's matter was being converted directly into energy. Impossible, Zektar screamed. No single ship can have this much firepower. Admiral, Vexrim reported in a voice filled with terror. 60% of our fleet has been destroyed. The remaining ships are taking massive damage. Our shields and armor are useless against their weapons. Zektar looked at his tactical display. Ships that had taken his people centuries to build were being destroyed in seconds. The human attack was so overwhelming that his fleet couldn't even fight back effectively. Return fire, he ordered. All ships maximum firepower. Target their weapon systems. The remaining Zephyrian ships tried to fight back. They fired their plasma weapons with desperate intensity. But their attacks had no more effect than before. The human ship absorbed their weapons fire like it was nothing. Sir, Vexrim reported, our weapons are still having no effect. Their defensive systems are beyond our understanding. More human weapons reached the Zephyrian fleet. Railgun projectiles passed through alien ships so fast that the ships didn't even have time to register the damage before they exploded. Plasma bolts melted entire vessels into glowing gas. Gravity weapons compressed proud warships into dense metal spheres. Temporal weapons aged centuries-old vessels into ancient dust in seconds. Zektar realized that his fleet was doomed. In less than a minute, the humans had destroyed most of his ships. The survivors were badly damaged and completely helpless. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "the human ship is sending us another message." "Put it through," Zektar said. He needed to understand what kind of species could build such devastating technology. Commander Chen's calm voice filled the bridge of the cosmic supremacy. "Zephyrian fleet, you are defeated. Surrender immediately, and you will be allowed to survive. Continue fighting and you will be completely destroyed." Zektar looked around his bridge. Half his crew was dead or injured. His ship was barely functioning. His proud fleet was nothing but debris and glowing gas. But his pride would not let him surrender to a primitive species. "Never," he shouted into the communicator. "The Zephyrian Empire does not surrender to inferior species." Chen's response was immediate and final. "Then you have chosen extinction." The final phase of the battle lasted exactly 37 seconds. Admiral Zektar had made his choice, and Commander Chen was prepared to honor it. "Rodriguez," Chen said quietly, "finish them." The remaining weapon systems of the Terran dominance activated in perfect coordination. This was not just an attack, it was a demonstration of what human engineering could accomplish when pushed to its limits. Admiral Zektar's flagship, the Cosmic Supremacy, was one of the few ships still functioning. Its quantum shields, the most advanced defensive technology the Zephyrians had ever developed, managed to hold against the first wave of human weapons. For a brief moment, Zektar felt hope. Perhaps his ship could survive this impossible attack. Then, the railguns fired their final salvo. The projectiles moved so fast that they created temporary tears in space-time itself. When they hit the Cosmic Supremacy, the quantum shields that had protected the ship for decades simply ceased to exist. The ship that had led the conquest of 17 star systems vanished in a flash of light so bright it could be seen from the nearest planet, 12 light minutes away. In those final moments, as his ship disintegrated around him, Admiral Zektar managed to send one last message. It was a question that would echo across the galaxy and change the course of interstellar history. What are you?" Commander Chen's response was simple, but it carried the weight of human history behind it. "We're human. And you just learned why every species in this galaxy eventually asks us the same question. Not can we defeat them, but how do we become their allies?" The space where the Zephyrian fleet had been was now empty except for glowing particles and twisted metal. 67 ships that had taken centuries to build had been destroyed in less than 2 minutes. On the bridge of the Terran dominance, the crew went about their duties with professional calm. This had not been a battle. It had been an execution. But it was an execution that needed to happen. "Santos," Chen called to engineering, "power down to normal operations. Send a message to Earth Command. First contact has been completed." "Aye, Commander," Santos replied. "All systems returning to standard operational status." Rodriguez looked up from his tactical station. "Commander, should we search for survivors?" Chen considered this for a moment. "Scan the debris field. If there are any life signs, we'll pick them up. But based on what I saw, I don't think there will be any." The sensors confirmed Chen's assessment. The human weapons had been so thorough that nothing larger than a small piece of metal remained of the alien fleet. 3 days later, the news of the battle reached the Galactic Council. This was a group of alien species that governed most of the known galaxy. They had been aware of humanity for several years, but had considered them a minor species that posed no threat. The Council's emergency session was held on the planet Zirion Prime, home to one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. Representatives from 43 different species gathered to discuss what had happened. Chancellor Thexmore, a tall insectoid creature with multiple arms and compound eyes, called the session to order. "We are here to discuss the destruction of the Zephyrian conquest fleet by a single human vessel," Thexmore announced. "The implications of this event are enormous." Ambassador Feltara from the Crystalline Collective spoke first. Her crystal body chimed like musical notes as she moved. The Zephyrians were one of the most powerful military forces in this galaxy. They had conquered 17 systems. How could one ship destroy their entire fleet? Ambassador Jorth from the Metallic Brotherhood answered with the sound of grinding gears. Our analysis of the battle recordings shows that the human weapons were far beyond anything we have seen before. Their technology appears to be centuries ahead of our own. Chancellor Thexmore accessed the Council's database. According to our records, humans only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. How could they develop such advanced weapons so quickly? The answer came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Clayneth from the Peaceful Federation had been studying human culture for decades. "Honorable Council members," Clayneth said in her soft, melodic voice, "I believe the answer lies in human psychology. Humans are unique among galactic species in several important ways." "Explain," Chancellor Thexmore requested. "Humans have a concept they call over-engineering," Clayneth continued. "When they build something, they do not just make it functional, they make it capable of handling situations far beyond what should be necessary." "Give us an example," Ambassador Feltara requested. "Human civilian bridges are built to handle 10 times more weight than they will ever need to carry. Human buildings are constructed to survive disasters that happen once in 1,000 years. When humans build weapons, they build them to fight enemies far stronger than any they have ever encountered." The council chamber was silent as the members considered this information. Ambassador Jorth spoke next. "Are you saying that humans build everything as if they expect to face impossible challenges?" "Exactly," Clayneth replied. "Humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. They assume that eventually they will face enemies with superior technology, so they build their weapons to be as powerful as possible." Chancellor Thexmore reviewed more data from the human database. What he found shocked him. According to this intelligence report, the ship that destroyed the Zephyrian fleet is classified by humans as a light patrol vessel. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices and sounds from dozens of different species. "Impossible!" Ambassador Feltara chimed. "That ship had more firepower than most planetary defense systems. The report indicates that humans have approximately 4,000 ships of this class." Chancellor Thexmore continued. "They also have plans for much larger vessels." Ambassador Clayneth added more disturbing information. "My cultural studies indicate that humans consider their current military to be peacetime forces. They have detailed plans for wartime production that would increase their fleet size by a factor of 10. The silence in the chamber was deafening. Finally, Ambassador Jorth asked the question that everyone was thinking. "What do we do about this?" Chancellor Thexmore considered the options carefully. The Council could try to form an alliance against humanity, but after seeing what one human ship could do, that seemed like suicide. They could try to negotiate, but humans had already demonstrated that they were willing to use overwhelming force against aggressive species. "I believe," Chancellor Thexmore said slowly, "that we have only one viable option. We must ensure that humanity never sees us as a threat." "You mean surrender?" Ambassador Feltara asked. "Not surrender," Chancellor Thexmore replied. "Partnership. We must find ways to become valuable allies to humanity. We must make ourselves so useful to them that they will want to protect us rather than conquer us." The Council voted unanimously to establish immediate diplomatic relations with humanity. They would offer trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and technological cooperation. They had learned the most important lesson in galactic politics. It was much better to be humanity's friend than their enemy. 6 months later, the first human embassy opened on Zarian Prime. Ambassador Sarah Chen, sister of Commander Chen, was appointed as humanity's first galactic representative. The galaxy had learned why humanity's unofficial motto was, "We didn't climb to the top of the food chain by being reasonable," and every species in the galaxy was very glad that humans were reasonable enough to accept friends.